Step 5, and developing an acquisition strategy, service acquisition, form a team, review concurrent strategy, market research required, definitions, acquisition strategy, executive strategy, performance management, mission results, change of the mission requirements, as is acquisition team members take from all sides, all steps of the user stakeholders, program management, PCOs, techs, SPs, PEOs, management, legal resource providers, and contractor office representatives, quality assurance reps. 5.1 acquisition strategy, acquisition strategy. Step 5, developing the primary business case and acquisition strategy. 5.2 finalizing acquisition strategy. 5.3 allocated workload within the team to support the acquisition strategy. 5.4 to prepare the acquisition planning documentation. 5.5 consider the use of the drafting request for proposal. 5.1 developing the preliminary business case and acquisition strategy. At this point, the process should have been well defined in the quality performance statement and the quality assurance surveillance pro plan. Now it's time to start the developing in the business strategy to determine the type of the contract vehicle, incentive, the arrangements, and how you will acquire the contract service provided. All right, review the market and research how the competitive is market and what are the small business opportunities that can be serviced be acquired. But as far as part 12, the acquisition commercial items and how their organization acquired the type of the service of the requirement to perform part of the agency's strategic acquisition initiative during the market research. Did you find another agency existing contract suitable for the using and the support of this requirement? Whenever reviewing the external acquisition options, you should examine your agency's external acquisition policies to make sure that there is no potential conflict with another. Important consideration when you use another agency's contract is to clearly determine well provided with the performance oversight of the resulting contract, ensure it delivers the required performance result. If no other viable option is available, we will need to develop an effective business case that supports the most effective way to achieve your mission requirements. The business strategy involves the selecting the right contract type of the incentive structure of the contractor selection process that was the best delivering mission result. Finalize acquisition strategy, type of contracts, fixed price, contract types, cost and reimbursement, contracts, incentives, recognize the power of profit as a motivator, positive, negative incentives, examples, consideration with contemplating incentives, determine how and will you select the contractor. 5.2 finalizing acquisition strategy. Your acquisition strategy involves several key components. What type of the contractor is best suited for the requirement? 2, what incentive strategies, if and any, to use? 3, what method will you use to select the contractor? Developing your strategy must be through an integrated team effort defined and specifying your mission requirement. 5.2.1 type of the contract. The FAR does not make recommendations of the type of the contract to be used when the contracting service. However, the selection of the contract type must be reflective of the nature of service requirements and risks associated with the performance. Selected contract type should motivate with the contractor to deliver optimum performance. Your observations during the market research were provided with a good basis analysis, commercial practices, the level of competition, majority level of the service, and the guide to the selection of the contract type. There are 2 basic types of the contract types: fixed price and the reimbursement types. 5.2.1.1 fixed price contract types is general the contract the routine services ever involving the stable requirements, manageable performance risk, and normally fixed price type. What must minimum stated with the performance standards served must be delivered with a specified time, meet the performance standards with the contract. Price should be supported with the robust competition and recent competitive pricing history. The contract price for the full-time payment for the work exceeding with the amount of the contractor's own risk and expense. The type of the contractor is usually when technical and cost can accurately estimated with the low of the predictable risk. It is almost inappropriate type of the contract to use when the work is clearly defined, when the requirement is constant with the needed for the flexibility. The contractor bears the full responsibility of the performance cost of the resulting profit or loss. 5.2.1.2 cost reimbursement contract types. Cost type contracts are usually required if the content cannot be accurately defined performance risk that is not easily quantified or managed. The type of the contracts require the contractor to deliver their best effort to provide the specified service. The responsibility allow allocable cost will be reimbursed in the total estimated amount of the specified into the contract. The amount to represent the estimated total cost, including fees not to exceeding the ceiling that cannot be exceeded without the contractor office approval. When using the cost type of the contract, ensuring the contractor has adequate accounting system, the government monitoring during the performance provided the assurance for the efficiency method of the efficiency cost controls. The cost contract places more risk on the government because the contractor bears less responsibility for completing the performance requirements of the established cost ceiling. The two common types of the cost plan fixed fees are the CPFFs. The cost plan fixed fees contracts for the service are either completions, the cost plan plus fixed fees completion. If the contractor fails to complete with the contractor with the time of the budget, the government pays only an additional cost, no additional fees for the cost of the effort. The incentive to decide, since the contractors are in business to earn the fees, the type of the cost plus fixed fees contract is applicable with a clearly defined result at the outset, but there is non-considerable unknowns for the risk that may be needed to be shared. The cost plus fixed fees term. The form of the cost plus fixed fees contracts allows you to describe the scope of the work. In general terms, the contractor will be required to perform a specified level of effort in the given period of time. 522 incentives, recognizing the power of the profit as a motivator. Incentives will drive behavior of one of the keys. The effective incentives involved with the recognizing the action. Private sector are motivated with the profit. The government relies on the industry to provide customer with product services. We have regulations, policies, and procedures that allow the industry compensated for those efforts. One of the contractors who you have served, that you give us the incentive will earn you an available dollar. It is important to understand the cause of the effective relationship between the contractor performance and the type of incentives used. In other words, whatever the team decides to initiate incentives, the area within the contractor will focus on the concentrate. Some of the term needs to ensure that they were creating a behavior that will deliver the right mission results. For example, like the incentive program, the high priority, the high risk performance requirements will with measurable metrics they incorporate with the share of the savings strategy with the rewards contractor for suggesting initiatives that improve the performance, reduce the total overall cost, developing the acquisition approach with the alignment of the interests of both parties in order to develop the strategy which both the contractor and the government benefit from. The economic efficiencies and innovations developed are delivered during the contractor performance. The incentives are right if the contractor agency share the same goal. The risk level largely controlled, but the effective performance is almost inevitable outcome. The key incentives is to make the work in both parties. Performance incentives. The incentive is designed to relate the profit to the fee, the result they achieved by the contractor in relation to identified costs of the base performance, the schedule-based targets. For example, a large cost plus incentive fee based or operating support contract contained with the incentive provisions for share cost savings generated with the contractor at a 50-50 basis. When the actual cost the same untargeted costs, in each 5-year contract, the contractor delivered the cost of the savings and additional fee with the contractor cost savings in installation. The incentive structure to pull the contractor base fee at the risk of the performance suffered with the result of the cutting schedule incentives to focus on the general contractor exceed the deliver exemptions with either the quality or timeliness that these can import on the construction and maintenance requirements. They can also be defined in the terms of the calendar days, month, and exceeding of the milestones, meeting the urgent requirements. Award fee contract arrangements. The type of the incentives used in an award fee plan with the criteria with the earning of the incentive. Generally, award fee contracts should only be used when the objective incentive targets are not feasible with the critical aspects of the performance, and judgmental standards can be fairly applied with the potential award fees would be provide meaningful incentives to motivate the service provided to the perform. Past performance documentation report. No cost incentives for the government. Maintaining the record of the good past performance always motivates the contractor. This information affects the decision to exercise the options future of the contract. The past performance assessment is quickly for the motivating improved performance or to reinstate exceptional performance, to keep in mind with the integrity of the past performance evaluation. Essential small business participation incentives. There is and will be a time that the nature of the value of the acquisition exceeds the ability of the small business to provide with the prime contractor large primes in accordance with the FAR's 19702, which shall develop a subcontracting when using the small business provided with the value of the government. There is no mandatory requirement for the negotiated subcontracting goals. Using the performance incentives, attaining these goals helps support the healthy industrial base for the future competition. 5221 positive and negative incentives. Example: the government incentives of the contractor performance on just but the contractual aspects, so long as the performance incentive is provided with the ultimate benefit to the government. Ultimately, whatever the incentive you prescribe must be based on a predetermined objective performance standard. They quantify and apply the measures and performance surveillance is needed. But the list below provided with the examples to positive and negative ways of the incentive. Positive: when performance exceeds the standard of the pay the X percentage of the monthly payment into the pool at the end of the Y months pay contract or amounts accrued in the pool. When performance exceeds the standard pay of X percentage monthly payment into the pool when the pool is reached and at Y dollars to pay the contract or amount accrued in the pool. When the performance has exceeded the standard X consecutive month, reduce the government oversight of the contractor reporting as appropriate. Document past performance report card paying the particular attention to the performance exceeding the standards. Negative: when the performance is below the given time period required the contractor to report the reperform the services no additional cost for the government. The performance is below the standard for the given type of the period X of the period, but the payments will be withheld and deducted. When the performance below the standard X consecutive months increase the surveillance of the contracting report documentation past performance report card paying with particular attention to the performance failure to be standard. 522 consideration with the contemplation incentives. Make sure that your incentives are realistic and attainable. They may focus the achieving the service the acquisition objective taking into account of the mission. The key characteristic, the other unique features of the service the acquisition team may have jointly developed and negotiate this incentive criteria with the contractor, all potential stakeholders, so that all the parties buy into the merits of the other approach. Additional solicitation stakeholders input the feedback will help identify what the customer feeds are, and most important, understanding the contractor will not spend a dime to earn the nickel. However, here are some of the best practice questions that the team should be addressed with the developing initiative incentive strategy. With the incentive consistent with the mission goals and the operational requirements, will it deliver an additional value to the mission? Which are the areas of the requirement would the benefit most be enhanced with the performance? Which are areas do not need added incentives? Which are can do without? Is the agency willing to pay more achievable level of performance beyond the performance standards? Is incentive is affordable? Is what the incentive is measurable? And how accurately can we capture and record the performance data? Is the potential for using the cost sharing? Will their effective timelessness schedule for the positive way? Does the strategy work of the benefit both parties? Does the contractor have complete control of the performance? 5.2. Determine how well the selecting a contractor. The two primary best value methods of selecting a contractor. One of the goals of the performance based assessment PBA is to achieve the highest degree of the quality efficiency with a reasonable price. Best value source selections allowing the government to establish the factors used to evaluate the contractual proposal submissions. The two types of selection methods are low price technical acceptability, or LPTA. Low price technical acceptability: the government establishes the minimum technical criteria standard determining which of the offers and the technical acceptability. Among those there determine the technical acceptable contract is awarded to the offerer with the lowest price. One limitation with the appropriate approach that there is no consideration for a better technical solution. The award is based primarily on price. Trade-off method. The process allows consideration, technical past performance, and the cost of the factors the contract award with the offer to represent the best value in accordance with the evaluation criteria contained in the request for a proposal. The process provided with the trade-off between the technical factors and the price used. The method allows the source of the selection authority to the selecting contract that represented the best value versus low cost. Both methods enable the acquisition to define the evaluation factors to be used in selecting the successful offer. The key to successful use of the evaluation factor is to establish a clear relationship between the performance work statement of Section L of the solicitation, either far as Part 12, the acquisition of commercial item, or Part 15, contract by negotiation. Section M of the solicitation, evaluation factors for the award. The evaluation factors selected should link clearly with the performance work statement, representing those areas of the important stakeholders that have been identified with the highly risk during the risk analysis. A rule of thumb is looking for the roadmap that have been completed with the made assessment with the high level objectives of the task, the high risk, and the high priority of the most. The critical should carry the most weight. 5.3. Allocating workload with the acquisition team. Either the best value selection process involves a significant investment in manpower to develop the selection criteria, conducting the technical and cost evaluations, making sure the resource of the commitment with both of the facilities to conduct your proposal evaluation. The people involved with the technical evaluations should have a good background, yet new approaches that maybe have the contractual proposal, the DAU continuous learning course, CLC 007 contractor source selection can be provided more information conducting the selections. 5.4. Preparing acquisition planning documents. The key documents of the acquisition plan, acquisition strategy, and the source selection plan. The acquisition plan is prescribed by the FARs and spells out the business case of the selected acquisition approach. It utilizes the information generated with the planning phases, the insights, and the nature of the requirement of the risk areas, customer concerns, market analysis, support of the plan. Acquisition plan for the service must describe the strategy to implementing with the performance-based analysis method to provide rationality for not using the provided with the rationality but the contract type other before fixed firm prices or FFPs. The acquisition communicates with requiring activities approach with the higher level approval levels. The authority will likely ask the following plans. If is the plan consistent with the DoD priority or policy, for example, to provide with the full open competition, small business set aside competition, the appropriate use the fixed price type contracts, is the plan executable? Are their top level objectives appropriate with the best interest within government? The acquisition plan with the acquisition strategy serves as a permanent record of the decision made regarding the acquisition strategy for the future reference. The acquisition strategies of the service of the prescribed by the Department of Defense Instruction 5002. Enclosure for the source of the selection plan opportunity outlines the membership evaluation factors, provides a description of the evaluation process, including the specific procedures technical to be used, evaluation contract or proposals. Both documentations require the approval in accordance with the agency procedures. 5.5. Consideration of draft request for proposal. Issuing the draft request for proposal is an effective way to get the industry feedback. The draft request for proposal contains both the requirement of the proposed business strategy that you are contemplating and the request of the feedback on both of the draft of the peer provided with the interest parties with the opportunity to provide the comments before the actual acquisition process starts. The government can benefit with the process, the consideration, industry feedback, how it could be improved in the acquisition. It also gives the potential contractor an opportunity with the early start of the planning proposal development, since when we often give contractors a minimum of 30 days to prepare the proposal of once issued the formal request for proposal. The primary disadvantage of the time is required to issue the draft and evaluate the industry comments, so accordingly we anticipate using the very effective technique. Section 4, the execution phase, step 6, and executing the strategy.